What's up? I'm Steph. This is Murder Vortex, and today the case I'm covering is about a 13-year-old named Tristyn Bailey. It takes place on May 9th of 2021 in St. Johns County, Florida. What started off as a missing juvenile case became a parent's worst nightmare shortly after search efforts began. Once evidence was found and the story began circulating, this case made headlines everywhere because it was discovered that a 14-year-old male named Aiden Fucci had killed his schoolmate Tristyn Bailey, who had only been 13 years old at this time. This case was shocking to everyone who heard about it because this kind of violence normally is not seen in this age group. Not only was the age of the victim and the murderer shocking, but just the sheer amount of force and brutality used to kill this young girl in itself was very hard to understand. For instance, our victim, Tristyn Bailey, was stabbed over 114 times, with 49 of those being defensive wounds. She fought very hard, but unfortunately was just not able to overcome her injuries. On May 8th, 2021, Tristyn had plans to sneak out and hang out with a group of people at Davish Trey Absher III's residence. Going forward, I would be referring to him as Trey just to make everything easier to follow. Trey's house was relatively close to Tristyn's, and she had been there before. The incident report says that Tristyn and Trey had been more friends with benefits and that they didn't really talk in school, but they had hung out before. So it's suspected that she felt safe enough to go over there. There is no doubt in my mind that she went over there not thinking for a single second that her life would have been put in danger. And Trey was also close friends with Aiden Fucci. The three of them had only hung out together once or twice. And on this particular night, Trey asked Aiden while they were smoking if he wanted to invite Tristyn over. Trey called Tristyn and invited her over to his house. Aiden asked for her phone number and convinced her to sneak out. Tristyn was said to have arrived at Trey's house around 12:30 a.m. and had been outside with Aiden alone smoking weed. Trey confirms that around 1:10 in the morning, both Aiden and Tristyn had left his house and he had fallen asleep. This was the last time he said he saw them that night. The last time she was seen by family was at midnight on May 8th and was supposed to be going to bed. The following morning was Mother's Day, and she had plans to help her siblings cook a special breakfast. However, her siblings noticed she was not in her room the next morning, and the family had begun their own search for Tristyn. They called her phone and it went straight to voicemail. Her 360 live location was not available, and eventually the Bailey family had to call and report their 13-year-old daughter missing, as they could not locate her. It was discovered Aiden had been the last person seen with Tristyn, and he had told authorities that they had gotten into an argument. He said Tristyn had tried to grab his crotch and that he pushed her down, causing her to hit her head. He said that he told her to fuck off and that he didn't look back for her and that he left her. This caused police to upgrade her missing juvenile report to urgent, thinking she might be in danger from a head laceration. Families in the neighborhood gathered together to help with search efforts, but were unsuccessful. In efforts to locate Tristyn, Deputy Maloney had questioned Aiden and had him in the patrol car to show him the route he and Tristyn had walked. This would allow a better idea of any surveillance cameras in the area that may have important evidence on them. It wasn't until around 6 p.m. on this same day a man would be going for a run, and he came upon Tristyn's mutilated body. He immediately called 911. It was later confirmed that this was Tristyn, and she was pronounced deceased at 18:15 on May 9th, 2021. Footage was confirmed to be located and showed two subjects confirmed to be Aiden Fucci and Tristyn Bailey walking east on the sidewalk of Saddlestone Drive at approximately 1:45. This is significant because they were seen walking towards the area of the retention pond where Tristyn's body had been located. No other footage was captured until around 3:27 a.m. and had only showed Aiden Fucci walking west away from the pond, seen carrying his shoes in his hand. To clarify, there is no additional footage of Tristyn being seen after 1:45 in the morning. She basically vanished from sight, and that's when we see Aiden coming back alone. Once this video evidence is obtained, they place Aiden along with his mother Crystal and father Jason in an interview room, awaiting their attorney. It is at this time they are conducting a search of the Fucci home, looking for any evidence, and while searching his room they find an empty buck knife sheath, a white t-shirt with blood located on the front, a pair of damp blue jeans, and the same shoes shown in the surveillance video with possible blood present. Later, it was confirmed that all of these clothing items came back positive with the presence of blood that was his and Tristyn's. They find a few disturbing drawings in his room and they take these into evidence, and they also check the drain taps and they come back positive with blood as well. It's important to know as well that his home had outdoor and indoor cameras. So because of this, they're able to search through the footage and they see that Aiden comes home. He goes upstairs, goes into his bathroom adjacent to his room, presumably to wash off any of the blood that he had on him from the murder that he had just committed. He comes out with a bathrobe, walks into his room. That's it. Later, they see the surveillance video is showing that Crystal, Aiden's mother, is washing his clothes in the bathroom in an attempt to get rid of evidence. While the search is ongoing at the Fucci home, the conversation between Aiden, his mom, and father is being recorded inside of the investigating room. His father asked him why his shoes were off, and Aiden's response was that they were hurting his feet and giving him blisters. His father asked if there was anything on his clothes from that night, asked him if he had anything to worry about, to which Aiden responded with no. Crystal, Aiden's mother, says that Tristyn was found in their neighborhood. Aiden asked, "Is she good?" The response from his mother is no, she's dead. That's why this is very important. Aiden's response was, "How is it my problem?" The conversation continues with some mumbles, and eventually they decide not to verbally communicate to prevent further incrimination of Aiden at this point. Here we are going to get into the autopsy and her injuries. Tristyn's body was transported from St. Johns County Funeral Home to the District 23 Medical Examiner's Office, where a post-mortem examination was to take place on Monday, May 10th at 9 a.m. Her time of death was approximately 1:45 a.m. to 3:30 a.m., so somewhere in between those time frames. There was a total of 114 stab and or cutting wounds concentrating on the top of her head, back of her neck, both arm and hands, and there were some on her back as well. Some of the wounds to her hands had penetrated through, which could have possibly occurred if she was covering her head. 3 of the stab wounds penetrated her left chest cavity, puncturing her left lung 3 different times. She had 1 to her right cavity, puncturing her right lung. This causes a hemothorax in both cavities, all the while she is bleeding out. The x-ray on her body shows a small metal fragment in her scalp. It was removed and placed into evidence. Her manner of death was listed as a homicide due to sharp force trauma. There was a field force team along with a dive team searching the premises where she was located deceased. There was nothing found on land, but the dive team did in fact find the murder weapon in the retention pond. This weapon was a Buck brand open folding knife with a wood and brass handle. Upon looking at this knife, it was visibly seen the blade was bent and the tip of the blade was gone. The tip of the blade was the metal fragment removed from Tristyn's scalp, and this would align with the previous evidence they found at Fucci's residence. On May 10th, 2021, Aiden Fucci was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Police had followed leads and had concluded Fucci acted alone. Aiden's girlfriend at the time had informed authorities that Aiden had a lot of problems and would talk about killing someone who was walking alone at night, that he would drag them into the woods and he would stab them. He further said he would fake his own death and continue killing people. Aiden had told his girlfriend that this murder would happen soon and she should expect it within the month. However, he never told her who he intended his victim to be. Unfortunately, for his then girlfriend, he would take a knife out and pretend to stab her with it, even going as far as to come up behind her and pretend to slit her throat. Trey had confirmed that Aiden had made some dark comments about killing people or committing violent acts, but had never called anyone specific. As of today, Aiden Fucci has been charged with first-degree premeditated murder of Tristyn, and he is sentenced to life. Because he is a minor, he has the opportunity of having his sentence reviewed in 25 years. However, that does not mean they will change his sentence, and it is only happening because it is required by law to do so. Although the case happened in 2021, it wasn't until this year that his sentence hearing began. For those of you who do agree with the death penalty, I do want to state that because he was a minor at the time he committed this crime, he is not eligible for the death penalty. The saddest thing about this case is that there was never any motive stated for why Aiden Fucci took the life of Tristyn Bailey. But with no motive, it's more senseless than anything. Crystal Smith, Aiden Fucci's mother, was sentenced to serve 30 days in jail and will be on probation for 5 years. Normally, tampering with evidence is a third-degree felony and would mean a 5-year prison sentence, but due to the guidelines of the state, she was only able to be held for 12 months instead. Thus, a plea agreement was made for the 30 days in jail with 5 years of probation. After 3 years, she will be able to apply for early termination of her probation. Tristyn Bailey's birthday was January 18th of 2008. Today she would be 15 years old attending high school. Tristyn was said to be kind-hearted and sassy. It said she had many friends and was well-liked. For the Bailey family, I pray you all pull together and get through this grief. I want to remind everyone to hug the people and love your family and friends because life is short and can be taken in an instant. I will be linking my resources below. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next episode.